So my story is a little bit unusual. I was an Air Force pilot, flew in around the world for the Air Force, flew in combat in places like Bosnia and the Persian Gulf. In 1995, 96 timeframe, I was asked by the Clinton administration, the Clinton White House, to go to work for him and carry the nuclear football for the administration for those 2 years. So I, as an Air Force officer, I actually had an office in the White House, a bedroom in the White House, carried that black bag, and I could tell Clinton stories all day long, which I know we don't have time for. Maybe for the next conference, I can just answer questions about Hillary and Bill. But I was that guy for 2 years. I saw a lot of things, Jeff, that really troubled me in terms of the way he was prosecuting our national security, their lack of regard for military personnel, Secret Service agents. I mean, it was really all about them. They were a very imperial couple, and they still are. I left the White House in 1998. I was a squadron commander and a group commander at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. I retired from the Air Force and started writing books. In fact, I wrote my first book, Dereliction of Duty, about my time with the Clintons after I was legally allowed to do so, after I was a private citizen again, and I could share my conservative beliefs and what I had seen as being up close and personal with the Clintons for those 2 years. I mean, again, I would jog with Bill in the morning, go to the golf course with him, go on vacations with the family, Marine One, Air Force One. So I was conservative prior to that experience, but being there and seeing the lack of accountability for those 2 years really pushed me to the right and kind of framed my beliefs that I currently have. I am running for Congress in California. I was listening to Michael Johns earlier. I think he's got his finger on the pulse. I think if you watch the last couple of days, there have been protests in San Diego, Los Angeles, and Sacramento. People are ready to get back to work. For those people who have been affected by the COVID-19, the coronavirus, I reach out to you. God bless you. It is a real threat, and Michael's right about that as well. It is a real threat. We can't take it lightly, but we need to get back to work. We need to get the economy going back again, and we need to not let the Democrats take advantage of this. A Democratic saying when I was at the White House by a guy named Paul Begala was never let a good crisis go to waste. And that's what the Democrats are trying to do right now. That's what Pelosi did with that pork bill last week, and we have got to make sure that we as conservatives and we as Republicans go forward and don't let that to happen. So I'm running in California 7. For those of you not familiar with California politics, that's Sacramento, kind of Sacramento East into the foothills, Folsom, California, all the way down to the ranching and farmlands of California. My opponent is a do-nothing beltway backseat bencher, Ami Bera. He votes with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time. And one of the reasons why I'm running, quite frankly, Jeff, is I took an oath of office when I became an Air Force officer and pilot to serve my country and to protect and defend the Constitution. And that oath, for me, never expires. I want to take that oath again on Capitol Hill. I want to make sure we give the Congress, the House, back to President Trump. That we get Nancy Pelosi out of the speaker position. She's clueless. She's senile, and she needs to leave. And I think we've got a real good shot. I know we do it in California 7. We won our primary on March 3rd. We had a primary on Super Tuesday. We won that, and we've got a real good shot. California 7 is one of the most purple districts in the state. It's a Democratic plus 3%. So for those of you not familiar with that, it means that there are only 3% more Democrats registered than there are Republicans registered. And if we can grab the independents and some of the Democrats who are unhappy with Bera, who's again done nothing in 8 years, we can flip that seat. I'm talking to the White House. We're looking for a President Trump endorsement once this craziness with the virus is over, and we want to get President Trump to out to Washington. To Sacramento. Hang on one second, Jeff. We want to get President Trump out to Sacramento and also to Orange County. We've got 6 or 7 seats that President Trump in the White House feels like they can flip in this November. And if we do that, we are well on our way to the 18 that we need to flip to give President Trump the House back across the rest of the nation. So we've got a real good shot. And I'll tell you what, as you know, Jeff, there is a lot of conservatives. There are a lot of conservatives in California. If you take away the Bay Area and you take away Los Angeles, it is essentially a red state. But those two areas with the elites like Nancy Pelosi are the ones that are dictating the way this state goes. And that's unfortunate, and it needs to stop, and we can do that. California's got issues like homelessness. We've got issues, for example, in Sacramento, well, in California in general, there's 130,000 plus homeless right now as we speak. And I think that's on the low side, 130,000. In Sacramento, a lot of those, Sacramento actually has the highest per capita number of conservative, homeless families on the streets at Sacramento. And Ami Berra, who's a medical doctor, has done nothing to fix that situation. We have issues with water. We have issues with immigration. I'm a staunch proponent of the wall, of a strong border, of taking care of those of us who are already here, American citizens. In fact, if you're not aware, viewers aren't aware, Gavin Newsom just approved a bill that's going to give illegal immigrants financial aid during the virus. He's not giving it to me. He's not giving it to my family, my daughter who lost her job, but he's giving it to illegal immigrants. And I think that's the kind of thing that we need to let the rest of the nation know. I'm a firm believer, Jeff, that as California goes, so goes the nation. And we have 53 congressional seats out here, and currently only 7 are Republican. That's got to change. 15 years ago, it was half of the seats were Republican. Now we've only got 7, and we can flip those seats. And California 7 is where it's going to start. I'm looking forward to joining Devin Nunes and Kevin McCarthy and Tom McClintock and some of the great Republicans out here that we have running, that we have in office right now, and turning this around a little bit. And I think my Air Force background, 20 years in combat and in service, we need someone that's got a little bit of fresh air, a little bit of a different approach. And I think that's what President Trump did. That's what the Tea Party did. That's what President Trump did in 2016. It's bringing outsiders that have insider knowledge, and that's what scares the hell out of Democrats right now. Is we've got a guy like me who's never run for anything, but I have worked in the White House, and I've seen how things work on the Hill and in the White House. I've got that little bit of knowledge that I can combine with my experience over the years in the military, my experience as a Delta Airlines pilot. I did that for 16 years. In addition to writing the books, and I think we've got a legitimate shot. And I think it sends a message, Jeff, for the conservative movement. If we start turning the tide in California, and we can, and we will, the rest of the nation is going to pay attention again. I mean, the fact that we've got people actually protesting right now in Los Angeles and San Diego against Gavin Newsom is huge. California is in bad shape. We have the world's 5th largest economy. Our public school system is number 43 out of 50 in the nation. You can't say that we're rocking and rolling out here when you can't provide public education for our children. We also are pushing people out of the state. I'm sure you're aware about that, Jeff. You know, we have 98.9% of all business in California are small business. Small business employs over 7 million people in California, most of whom right now currently are unemployed. And what does California do? They continue to increase the tax base, the tax rate. They continue to put on more onerous and oppressive regulations. And small businesses are moving out in droves. They're moving to Idaho, Colorado, Nevada, Texas, Utah. It's unsustainable. It's untenable. And we've got to put somebody into Congress out here that can stand up to Gavin Newsom, people like that, and just move forward. I think we've got a legitimate shot. So that's my background. I've got a lot to talk about. I know we're a little bit pressed for time, but again, my big deal is immigration, the homelessness, veterans affairs for sure, small businesses for sure, and water rights. The water in California is super critical. Super important, and rather than giving it to the farmers in the Central Valley and the ranchers, we are porting it out to the Pacific Ocean to save the Delta smelt. You know, it's how about we prioritize human beings first, and fish second would be my, maybe it makes too much sense, but that's what we're doing in California. So if there's any questions, I'd love to answer them, Jeff. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and looking forward to being on the panel at 4:30. And it's, if people want to go to my website, it's Buzz, the number 4 Congress, buzz4congress.com. They can find me on Twitter. They can find me on Facebook. And again, I'm running in California 7, and I'm part of a movement, as I'm sure you're aware, Jeff, across this state, that there's a vibe now. There's a drumbeat of conservatives in California that are tired of the status quo, and we have 2 options, right? We can stay and fight, or we can leave. And those of us like you and me are staying and fighting. I'm not originally from here, but my wife is. We love California. It's a beautiful city that's been ruined. It's been ruined over the years by Democratic leadership, and I use that term loosely, leadership, because if you look at what's going on in our cities, what's going on in our state, the sanctuary state issue, the sanctuary cities issue, it's a crock, and we should be taking care of American citizens first and foremost. And we're not doing that. We can't even fix our highways and our roads, but we're trying to build that damn train that goes nowhere, out of San Francisco down to LA. Can you imagine the money that we spent on the bullet train, Jerry Brown's bullet train? Can you imagine that money going towards actual homelessness, or going toward the people who really need it? The people, like, for example, in my district, Elk Grove is in the southern part of my district. Most of those residents in Elk Grove had to move out of the Bay Area because of the price of housing, the cost of housing, and they're driving 2.5 hours each way on highways that need to be enhanced and fixed. Can you imagine if we had helped them build a train from Sacramento to San Francisco first and foremost, and not going up and down the coast, which will never happen. It will never happen. Just great to be with you guys. If there's any questions out there, I'd love to answer them.
Yeah, there's a few questions coming in. I know that, let's see. So Angela asked a good question here on the Facebook comments, and she said, why does the phrase and the term "America First" fall on deaf ears of Democrats, in your opinion?
I think that's a great question, Angela. I think it's because there's a huge guilt complex on the part of a lot of elitists that live. For example, Nancy Pelosi the other day was standing in front of her, probably $35,000 refrigerator, showing off her exotic and gourmet ice creams, when just outside her door, there are people living in filth. In San Francisco, you've got actual phone apps of poop. We're not to go on the streets on a day-to-day basis. I mean, so I think it's the elitists. It's Gavin Newsom living in a mansion. It's people in Hollywood. I mean, I'm currently living just north of Hollywood in LA, and they think that they are the moral and social compass for the world, and they are the last people we need trying to dictate how this nation goes, how the state goes. And for example, I saw yesterday Nancy Pelosi was walking downtown Chinatown without a mask, not doing the social distancing thing, encouraging people to go to Chinatown. And I'm thinking, does she have any idea what the rest of us are going through right now? And again, I'm not going to overplay the coronavirus, but we're being told to stay home. And we're being told when we go to the grocery store to wear a mask. And here she is walking downtown with her staff, encouraging people to come out into the, So I think it's elitism. It's Democrats are very disconnected from the mainstream Americans, from small business, from the military. It's a shame. And I saw it all during my time in the Clinton administration, and it's got to stop. And that's why the Tea Party is great, and why what's happening right now on the streets of California is great. It's Americans, it's patriots getting back to work, and we're going to take this in November and show Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats what we're all about.
Yeah. Now, JD's got a good question for you as well, which is, who would you support for Speaker of the House if the GOP takes back the House?
It's going to be Kevin McCarthy, whether I support him or not. I think Kevin McCarthy's been there long enough and has enough of and this is the thing about politics that kind of irks me. And I don't know, I'm not going to become one of them, but there's a lot of power plays going on Capitol Hill. There's a lot of who owes what to whom. I think it'll be McCarthy. I think probably hands down. I like Kevin. I think he's done a decent job, and I think he should be the speaker. And I hope it's the death bell, the death knell for Nancy Pelosi to finally retire and get out of the business, because she has no idea being where she is right now.
Yeah, and then one final question coming in, and it's a little bit more of a fun one, but how heavy was the nuclear football?
Really good question. It's actually very heavy. It weighs about 45 pounds. It accompanies the president no matter where he or she goes. It's got a handcuff on the side for security reasons. I would always put it down as much as I possibly could because it was very heavy. But the only person that can get into it is the military aide, i.e. me. But it has to go everywhere the president of the United States goes. He has to have a military aide next to his side or her side. And I was the Air Force guy that did that for 2 years. It's heavy. There's a lot of stuff in there that I can't go into detail. But think about this. Whatever President Clinton needed, no matter where we were in the world, he had right there in my hands.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about, like some of those details that, like, I mean, obviously, the president's got to have that kind of information, that kind of technology to be able to do that on a moment's notice, but you don't think somebody's got to follow him around carrying that thing like everywhere he goes. It's pretty crazy.
And you see a lot of things you don't want to see. I mean, I was there doing all the Monica Lewinsky stuff, and like I said, I had a bedroom in the White House and an office in the White House, and went on vacations, and there was never 2 days that were the same. Let me put it that way. They were doing the impeachment process. I mean, it was just nuts. And I wouldn't want to do it again, but it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Buzz, thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed, hearing you speak. I know we'll have more, hearing from you here in a little bit with the panel that we'll have coming up that J.D. Rucker will be moderating, and then we've got Michael Johns, yourself, and Mindy Robinson. It's going to make for a fascinating conversation, kind of on the future of conservatism and politics and things like that. So everybody stay tuned for that. So, but yeah, Buzz, again, thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoy it.
My pleasure. Looking forward to 4:30 as well. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Of course.